Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. TowerGate day number 983. Wednesday, December the 11th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, of course, another huge news day today. A lot to get to, so let's get to it. And hopefully I'll be able to get this all in. Okay, so Attorney General Barr was on NBC. NBC, my friends. Yes, that's right, NBC. That's important. That's important because a lot of lefties who get fed a lot of disinformation and propaganda watch NBC. 4 times as many people watch NBC as watch CNN or MSNBC. And so a lot of people are going to see this interview with Attorney General Barr. And in this interview, he goes into even more detail. He doubles down, he triples down, he quadruples down on what he said in a statement following the release of the IG report. Here is just a paragraph or so of what he said on NBC, but I urge you to watch the entire interview and you'll know what I mean. Barr says that the Trump campaign was clearly spied upon. There were irregularities, there were misstatements and omissions that were not satisfactorily explained by the IG report. This leaves open the possibility of bad faith. We haven't decided the issue of improper motive. The nation was turned on its head for 3 years, I think, based on a completely bogus narrative that was largely fanned and hyped by the press. The question is, what was the real objective after the election? They kept pressing ahead after the case had collapsed. What was the agenda after the election? This is the President of the United States. That's right. Because as we learned from Huckleberry Horowitz, in January of 2017, the FBI and the DOJ knew 100% for a fact that the dossier was crap. They knew in January of 2017 the dossier was crap. But they had already gotten a FISA warrant on Carter Page based on that. Now what they should have done at that point was said, uh-oh, we screwed up. And they should have went back to the FISA court with this new information. So, okay, we've just learned that FISA we just got was based on some bad info. So we want to cancel that FISA, make it clear that there was an error made. We're going to look into it and find out how this all happened. And they should have shut it down. But they did not. They continued on to get 3 more warrants on Carter Page, based on basically the same information and more falsified information, more exculpatory evidence. That's what Kleinsmith, one of the things he's in trouble for. He knew that Carter Page, he was told by the intelligence community, yeah, Carter Page has been an asset for us and helped us with some Russian gangsters. And Kleinsmith completely deleted that from the report, as well as other things. But it gets worse, because consider this. Everyone on the Mueller team, Uncle Bob the Executioner, the Hillary donor posse, Andrew Wiseass, all knew the same. They knew, because remember, essentially the Mueller investigation was taking over the existing counterintelligence operation. They knew the investigation they was taking over was based on bullshit. They knew it and proceeded anyway. That's what Barr and Durham know. They probably knew it before the IG report came out, but the IG report makes it clear. The FBI knew in January of 2017 the entire premise for what they were doing was bullshit, and they continued on. Oh my God. My friends, I can assure you that John Durham already has a list with anywhere from 1 to 3 dozen people who he's going to indict with serious felonies. Absolutely. That may be the most damning thing of all the things in the IG report that are quite damning. That is probably the single most damning thing that we learn from the IG report, is that the FBI knew in 2017, January of 2017, that the evidence that they used was fraud, bullshit. And they continued on anyway. And they never stopped. And then they morphed it from a counterintelligence operation, morphed it into a criminal investigation with Mueller. And Mueller would have had this exact same information. Uncle Bob the Executioner and the Hillary donor posse, headed by Andrew Wiseass, are also going to get the hot light treatment from Durham. They're going to have some very, very difficult questions thrown at them, and they'll be lying to the wrong guy. Remember, we just went through the bio for John Durham less than 2 weeks ago. What did we learn? What is the number one thing that drives Durham nuts? Corrupt government officials. That's why when you need to tap someone who's not afraid to go after high-level government officials, you go to John Durham. That's why Barr tasked Durham with this assignment. That's why others have tasked him with similar assignments. Durham despises corruption in the Department of Justice. And when he finds corrupt people in the Department of Justice, he is unrelenting. He wants these people out of his Department of Justice. That's the way he looks at it. God have mercy on these people, because I can assure you Mr. Durham will not. Look at his track record. Yes, the FBI, the DOJ knew in January 2017 the dossier was crap. They continued on. Mueller continued on. And it continues to this day. And it's not just the Department of Justice, the FBI. There's also Democrat politicians and possibly even, likely even, Republican politicians who were in the game. Remember Mark Warner, Senator Mark Warner, and what he was involved in? His conversations with Mr. Waldman, who was dealing with Steele, trying to cut a deal for Oleg Deripaska. Pretty sure Mr. Waldman, along with several other Democratic politicians, are going to find themselves also having to answer some questions from Mr. Durham. That would include people at the DNC. The Right Reverend Clinton paid for the dossier. Are we supposed to believe that she didn't know anything that was going on? Good luck. We'll see her sit there and lie to Durham. It's not like what she went through in 2016 with her email investigation, which was a fraud. Oh no, this will be different. This will absolutely be different. You know, when she was asked about it, she said, "Oh yeah, well I know that political campaigns hire opposition research, and all campaigns do it, and the DNC, I know they hired opposition research, but that's really all I really know about it." That's what she says. But when Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz is asked about it, who was the head of the DNC at that time, she plays dumb, like she didn't know anything about it, as does Donna Brazil. Somebody's lying. Mr. Durham is going to put the hot light on him and find out which one is lying. There's quite a few things that Horowitz did get wrong. As most of you know, we just finished going through Lee Smith's book, and we know all about the dossier. We know about the proto-dossiers. We know from the good research and documented evidence in Lee Smith's book that Christopher Steele, as I've been saying for a very, very long time, did not write, nor was he the primary author of the dossier. He only took those proto-dossiers and embellished them, and then he sprinkled a few other tidbits in for himself. He likely got the PP-Gate story from Hillary's henchmen, Cody Shearer and Sidney Blumenthal. And so Horowitz really missed it on the dossier, because he's claiming that Christopher Steele essentially wrote the dossier and that he had this subsource. And they've interviewed the subsource, which is why they blew the credibility of the dossier away. But it doesn't answer a lot of the other questions. And they don't name the subsource. But if you look at Lee Smith's book and you look at the evidence he lays out, it's pretty damn clear that most of the things that were discussed in the dossier were out there months before. And they came from Glenn Simpson, likely Nellie Orr, doing her open source research, Mr. Baumgartner, and probably some of it being fed to them from Shearer and Blumenthal. And Christopher Steele just simply embellished a lot of things, and then he threw in a few things from his previous work on the FIFA case. Threw in the Russian energy company, and he threw in some of those elements. But it was a mishmash of stuff that Steele used. The basic outline, essentially what Dan Bongino calls the movie script, was essentially written by Glenn Simpson. And overwhelming evidence of that fact. So Horowitz didn't get it right there. And also we know from Christopher Steele's deposition, he said that he never went out and sought the information, that it came to him. He said that he got the information, he never got any direct information, that he got it from collectors who got their information from intermediaries. He doesn't ever talk about a single subsource. So Horowitz definitely missed the ball on that one. And Horowitz doesn't accepts the predicate of Mifsud being some sort of a foreign agent giving the information to Papagalopoulos. But of course we know that that's crazy. We know that that's nuts. And I'm sure that based on Durham's statement, he is already determined that Mifsud was definitely not a Russian agent, and that he was likely working for someone else. And I assume that's why he spent so much time in Italy. And of course we know he got 2 of the phones that Mifsud was using. We're not sure where they came from, whether they came from the State Department, the DOJ, the FBI, the Brits. We don't know where it came from, but we know after he got a hold of those phones, he went to Italy. And he's been there 3 times that we know of. And it all has to do with Mifsud. Now, I would suggest to Mr. Durham that you do not necessarily be nice if you could get to Mifsud, but I don't know that you'll get to Mifsud. I don't know that he's not fish food by now. Somebody's obviously protecting him. If he's still alive, someone's protecting him. I believe, this is my personal opinion, that Stefan Halper was running Mifsud. And so I would say to Mr. Durham, you need to talk to Halper, and he may already have talked to Halper. He's definitely talked to Halper's boss, we know that. He's the one who's being suggested may have been the one who leaked the Flynn-Kislyak phone call. But I'm pretty sure if you talk to Halper, you'll find out a lot about Mifsud and who was actually running him. Steele's subsource. That's very interesting. First time we've heard of that term, Steele's subsource. So I can only say at this time, based on this accusation in the IG report, that it appears that Horowitz was lied to. That some of the information in the Horowitz report is not true because the information came from someone who lied. And probably quite a few people lied to Horowitz. It's easy to lie to Horowitz. He can't do anything to you. Can't lie to Durham. We also learned from the IG report that Halper was working for the FBI, not the CIA. But he was probably working for both, would be my guess. Again, some lies going on here. His connections are typically to the CIA. But in the Horowitz report, they expressly say that that Halper was working for the FBI, and that he had a handler from the FBI. Horowitz doesn't name the handler for Halper in the FBI, but clearly he's talked to someone who claims to be the handler for Halper at the FBI. I'll be very interested because we're going to get the full lowdown on Halper and his boss because they're both going to go to prison. Halper, just because you work for the CIA or the FBI, doesn't mean you have carte blanche to run frame-up operations on private citizens and destroy their lives and tie them to a general conspiracy, which could put them in prison. And the process and the objective of all that being to carry out a coup against the sitting president. No, working for the FBI and the DOJ does not give you those luxuries, Mr. Halper. Lawyer up, fat man. You're going to prison for a long time. Right along with your boss. We learned from the Horowitz report that the PP-Gate story was a joke created in a bar over a few beers. That information coming from Steele's subsource. Jim Comey, you're in a world of trouble, right along with McCabe and Strzok and Page and the whole mess of you. All going to prison. Oh, yes. Yes, you are. You are top on Durham's list right now. Every one of these people are going to jail. On August of 2016, Obama said, quote, word for word, quote, I do not talk to the Attorney General about pending investigations. I do not talk to FBI directors about pending investigations. I guarantee that there is no political influence in any investigation conducted by the Department of Justice or the FBI, not just in this case, but in any case. Full stop, period. Guaranteed. Nobody gets treated differently when it comes to the Justice Department. He said that in August of 2016. Guess what we learned in the IG report? That in August 2016, Obama was briefed on the whole damn thing. Mr. Durham is going to be having a conversation with Barack Hussein Obama. And let me tell you who is sweating her ass off right now. Susan Rice. She was the head of the NSC. All of this type of activity would have gone through the NSC to Obama. Susan Rice would likely have been involved in that conversation. Somebody is going to have to fall on the sword to save Obama's white ass. Who's that going to be? Susan Rice? Somebody's got to fall on the sword to save the Messiah. And Susan Rice is really dumb. If she finds herself one-on-one with Durham, oh, he will destroy her. I don't think she can lie about a lot of this stuff. And she's going down anyway. Absolutely. She is at the very top of the list. Remember all those unmasked calls? All of that had to be approved through the NSC. Samantha Power says a lot of those unmaskings that took place under my name, I didn't do them. Somebody's going to have to explain that, and that will be Susan Rice. Susan Rice is also going to jail for a very, very long time. Let's see. Where do we go next? Well, let's hit a couple of these things as we are running out of time. It appears that Madame Botox Pelosi has now noted that there will be 2 articles of impeachment, one for abuse of power and the other for obstructing Congress. Neither of these are high crimes or misdemeanors or can actually be used for articles of impeachment. I have no idea what in the world she's trying to do here. And apparently, I mean, this I've never, again, as I've been saying for weeks now, I'm living through this. I know this is real. This is not a dream. This is actually happening. And I can't believe it's happening. I've never seen a more suicidal political tactic used ever in my entire life. And I've been watching this stuff for many, many years. This is absolutely the worst thing I've ever seen. Pelosi is not going to survive this, I do not think. Because next week they're going to have a full vote in the House. Do you think they got the votes? They can only afford to lose about 18 votes. Maybe 19, because you'll get Justin Amash to vote for it. 19. That's what she's working with. And we know she's already lost at least 4. She's down to about 15. If 15 Democrats, and believe me, I've been watching these videos of these Democrats back in their home district, they are getting destroyed in their town halls. Literally destroyed on this impeachment issue. It'll be very interesting to see if they got the votes. And if they don't, if Pelosi has run this gauntlet this far, and she gets to next week, and she doesn't get the votes, I don't see how she can continue to lead her party at that point. I don't see how. And if she tries, she'll just get steamrolled. Absolutely steamrolled. Her power will be gone, essentially. She can still have the title Speaker of the House, but her power is gone. You cannot have this type of an epic fail. She so badly misplayed this that it's really hard to believe. She's been around a long time. She's smarter than this. I don't know. And she's pretty dumb, but she's smart enough to know this is a bad tactic. But she went ahead with it anyway. I have another theory on that. I will get to at some point. I'm just too busy now. But this is extraordinary, and we'll see next week what the vote tally is. I can assure you, any Democrat in those 31 districts that are voted for Trump, they're going to lose if they support this impeachment. Absolutely, they're going to lose, and that, I mean, it's the House of Representatives right there. It's over. So we will see what happens here. But it continues to just dumbfound me as to how you could make such a massive tactical error, especially if you've been around Washington and politics and this type of stuff as long as Pelosi has. It's really, it's almost like there has to be something else driving this. And it's more than just the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse and the left wing of her party. That's what people keep saying. No. She could squash those people if she needed to. There's something else going on. Maybe we'll learn what that is. Well, after Pelosi makes her presentation, after she goes up and commits political suicide, the rotten Reverend Clinton tweets out, "We must defend our democracy, and the painful truth is that the occupant of the Oval Office is waging war against it." Well, the Reverend Clinton is desperate to get into this race. She can't get into the race as long as Biden and Warren are around, because she'll come into the race and she'll be probably considerably lower than they are in the polls. She won't be able to eclipse them, and the Right Reverend Clinton cannot be in a fair competition. She either has to clear the field or cheat. And she's desperate and dying to get into this race. Why, I don't know. She's going to get her ass kicked. But my guess is she had some sort of a pact with someone that if you'll impeach Trump, I'll run. You got to damage Trump. You got to weaken Trump. Give me an opportunity, and I'll run. Obviously, she's behind this story yesterday, saying that she would enter the race as the front runner. We will see what she does. If she enters this race, she's in a world of hurt. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Durham is going to be having a long conversation with the Right Reverend Clinton. And if you think that she's going to slide by and not be implicated in this, you're living in a world of delusion. She paid for the damn dossier. She knew about everything that was going on. She planned, organized, directed, and controlled the whole operation. She was pushing the garbage, pipelining it through the State Department via her lawyer to the FBI, via her paid hacks Blumenthal and Shearer, and also Steele was working for her. And she was aware of everything that was going on. She was, I'm sure, micromanaging every single detail of it. Durham probably already knows this, or he'll soon discover it. And when he does, she is going to have the hot light treatment with Durham. And believe me, he's not going to put up with her bullshit. Maybe she thinks that if she throws her hat in the ring and she's running for office, he'll leave her alone. I don't think so. That's not his style. And I can assure you he's not a big fan of the rotten Reverend Clinton. You just keep tweeting, Reverend, because your day is about to come, believe me. She is going to be implicated in this grand conspiracy by Mr. Durham. How he'll indict her and on what he will indict her on and to what level, he will probably have to find the information or the evidence that ties her directly to it. Obviously, there's tons of evidence you could say that ties her to it, but you probably got to find some witnesses to testify, some documents or something. And the rotten Reverend Clinton's pretty slick. She subcontracts everything she does. She's not going to leave any documents around. Probably not going to make any phone calls. It's going to be tough to nail her down, but there's circumstantial evidence would suggest that she had to know everything that was going on. You just need to get her lawyer, Mr. Sussman. You need to get Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz. You need to get Donna Brazil. You need to get Cody Shearer and Blumenthal. You need to get Podesta, and you need to grill them, Robbie Mook, as well. You need to grill them, and believe me, if they're looking at conspiracy charges, they will roll over on the rotten Reverend Clinton to save their ass. I promise you that. Well, Loose Lisa Page has filed a lawsuit against the Department of Justice for violating her Privacy Act, the Privacy Act, against her by releasing her text messages of her conversations with Peter's been stroking us. Well, good luck with that. Well, I don't know if she's referring to conversations on her own phones or the government's phones and email system, but if she's talking about conversations on the government's phones and email systems, that's the public owns that, not the Loose Lisa Page. The public owns that. The government owns that. Anything that you do, if you're at your work and you are doing things on a company phone, on a company email account, the company owns it. And the company she was working for was the Department of Justice. They own those texts. And this is going nowhere fast. I don't know if this is maybe some sort of a PR move. I can only imagine. It's humorous. It'll be laughed out of court. It'll go nowhere. And I can't imagine what's going through her mind. She's got a lot bigger problems facing her because she is on her way to federal prison. And so maybe she's looking to cash in before she does, but this suit will fail. Unless they're talking about personal things, and then I don't know, maybe she's got a case, but I would assume she's talking, most of the emails and the text that we've been looking at from the text of Loose Lisa Page and Peter's been stroking us and the emails, that was all done on government systems. That's not, she has no case if we're talking about government systems. So I'm not sure what she's doing here, but, who knows? Desperate people do desperate things, and she's got a lot of problems, most of them criminal and legal. Of course, just to follow up on that point, Trump was at a rally last night in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and he says that he's heard that Loose Lisa Page had to get a restraining order against Peter's been stroking us. That's a new one. That's a new one, and after all, we learned that it was actually Peter's been stroking us' wife who blew the whistle on that affair and went to Horowitz, or went to the DOJ about the situation when she discovered their affair by seeing the text messages and things, and the fact that Peter Ben Strokenus was ordering flowers for her and I love you Lisa type things going on there. That's who blew the whistle on them. But, that's interesting that she had to get a restraining order against Peter's been stroking us. She's got a lot of problems, and so does he. We also have Hunter Biden refusing to pay his baby mama the 11 grand for her legal bills. She is demanding to know, the baby mama of Hunter Biden is demanding to know about how much money Burisma and the Chinese paid him. And of course, the judge in the case has already said, I want 3 years tax returns from you, Mr. Biden. And I imagine that's playing itself out in court. But ultimately, it's a paternity suit. He is the father, and the court is going to demand your... I know people have been through this. The court's going to want to see your income. He's going to have to put it out there. And as soon as he does, there'll be a lot of people looking at it. I can assure you of that. Including probably some members of Congress. And Rudy Giuliani, who, by the way, is getting ready to drop his Ukraine evidence on Barr later here in the next couple of days. And he said that there's some stuff in there that's very damaging personally to the rotten Reverend Clinton as far as payments made to her from corrupt Ukrainians. We know that the largest donor to the Clinton Foundation is Viktor Pinchuk, the Ukrainian oligarch, who's, by the way, under investigation. We have Trump blasting Christopher No-Shit Sherlock Ray, the current director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her. Trump said that Ray, he said he doesn't know what the current director of the FBI, Chris Wray, was reading, but it sure wasn't the same one he was reading. He said with that kind of attitude that he will never be able to fix the FBI, which is badly broken despite having some of the greatest men and women working there. Yes, Christopher No-Shit Sherlock Ray needs to be fired, Mr. President. The sooner the better. He's deep state all the way. He's hindering the investigations. He's not going to clean up any messes. He's going to cover them up. Fire his ass, Mr. President. Immediately, if not sooner. As most of you know, I've talked about the whole key to unraveling this plot is Mr. Mifsud. Mr. Mifsud. That's where it all began. He dropped the dope on Papadopoulos. Halper was supposed to retrieve the dope, but Papadopoulos froze up. Halper dropped the ball, and so they had to turn to Alexander Down the Hatch Downer, bring him out of the bullpen, and have him come in and close out the game. And so Mifsud is the key to all of this. And as I said earlier, I do believe that Halper was his handler, and I do believe that Durham knows something about Mifsud, and probably has already established he definitely was not a Russian agent, and that he was probably working for Western intelligence. When Durham finds out who Mifsud was working for, the ball game is over. That's it. Everything else is out there. Everything else we pretty much know. I hope he's read Lee Smith's book. I hope he's read Greg Jarrett's book. I hope he's read Papadopoulos' book. My guess is he has. But the key to all this is Mifsud. And when you unravel that guy and find out who he was working for, the ball game's over. And that's really the last major piece. When that happens, here come the indictments, and there'll be a lot of them. I'm saying between at least a dozen, possibly 3 dozen of top-level FBI DOJ people, and then there'll be probably dozens of others in the mix that are lower level. Charles Grassley says that Comey is in for a rude awakening when Durham gets done with his criminal investigation. Yes, he is. He's going to prison for a very long time, possibly the rest of his life. And we have Quid Pro Quo Joe saying that he will not comply with the subpoena in a Senate trial. Well, that would look... Not complying with a subpoena in the Senate trial would look worse than actually showing up and testifying. Because people say, well, if you have nothing to hide, you should show up and testify and clear your name. By saying, I'm not going to show up and violating a subpoena, well, that would only exacerbate the problem, and ultimately, he's going to have to answer some questions. He's been caught in so many lies on this issue, it's unbelievable. His days are numbered as well. Especially with the rotten Reverend Clinton, the demonic buzzard circling overhead of his soon-to-be cold, dead carcass. Politically dead, I mean. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more Towergate. See ya. Bye.